Hello, welcome to Pro Tips number 56 about consolidating your custom fields. Today, once again, it's been a while, but I thought let's do one together again, me and Jacob. I think it's been a few months since we've done one together, so I just wanted to have him jump on so we can do some tag teaming. I can show some things, he can show some things. I'll be as the title suggests, today we'll be covering the custom fields and how to consolidate them. Something that's relatively new, something we released in the last launch, something also that you requested a lot, and that's why we put it in. So, quick recap of what it actually is. It means being able to take all your custom fields that you have in your potential separate Lansweeper installations in your environment and consolidating them all in the Lansweeper Site interface. So you have basically one place to manage everything. But I wanted to start by basically handing it over to Jacob, primarily because I want, I'm curious more, Jacob, onto you, kind of what you've used custom fields for in the past in your experience and how kind of this new functionality would help you there.
Thanks, Esmond. So custom fields. This is a important one for me. I've been waiting for this ability to sync on-prem, like you said, as many others, for just a little bit. We would ask about it in the community forum, and we were listening. So we did it. And why do we use them, or why can you use them, and why I like to use them is like you mentioned, Esmond, you can take multiple installations on-prem, different locations, and you can centrally manage them now. When I had multiple installations, each one had their own custom fields. They didn't match up. There was no way to do permissions to view these, but not these, and have user permissions match across the board. So one a central management is really cool. The other thing that is neat is with the custom fields with Lansweeper sites, you can manage them with the API if you want to. So not only can you centralize everything, now you can manage it with the API. You can update them and keep everything going, which means you can sync it or manage them or edit them for on-premise values or values that you manage locally, or you can sync it with another API in another application that's a SaaS application that's an online hosted application.
And you actually, some time ago, you actually created a pro tip, right, that kind of went into some of the custom fields. Maybe you can elaborate or recap really quickly what you did there with custom fields specifically.
Sure. Thank you for keeping me on track. So custom fields, I like to use custom fields for compliance. So classification and compliance. I wrote a pro tip a few months ago about asset classification, the importance of asset classification. I like to keep track of what the environment is: production, QA, test, development. I like to put an application, a server description that comes from myself, the administrator, or an application owner, a real concise, what it is from the expert or owner of the asset. Mostly infrastructure, servers, switches, and all of that stuff.
Yeah,
so
and even in the past, one of the things that we used to do, or that we did in the past, is we heard from customers that they were using specific custom fields a lot, and we added them into Lansweeper sites as kind of default fields. In a way, we just took kind of custom fields that we noticed people were using a lot and transferred them as default fields. But there's only so much that you can do of that before it just becomes a big list of fields, because everyone has their own preferences. And the specific example are like we now have financial information custom or default fields in Lansweeper sites. But I can imagine that there are people out there that are using custom fields for tracking whatever basically, or adding whatever kind of information. And yeah, especially if you have multiple installations, like you said, it's very important or very useful to start managing this centrally rather than having distributed installations that you each have to keep up and ensure that they're all up to date, et cetera, et cetera. So
Yes, and I have been waiting for this for quite a while. So yes, it's
Yep.
great.
So I think our first thing that I'm going to go over is kind of how this consolidation works, and briefly also how the syncing process works, because there are some things that we would suggest you keep in mind when you do the sync. So first thing to keep in mind is that this is a one-way sync. So this has not been designed for you to update fields in your Lansweeper site and then for them to sync back down, or to create new fields and things like that, and for them to sync down to the on-premise. The idea really behind this is to give you one location to manage these custom fields, not for you to have a full bi-directional sync. You might ask, why didn't you do a two-directional sync? Well, if you know how custom fields work, especially with having multiple local installations, just the complexity around merging these custom fields and ensuring that there's no overlap or confusion or issues that arise out of somebody creating a custom field in cloud, and then that syncs down to both your on-premise installations, and maybe it might overwrite one on one but not on the other. I could keep going like that,
Well,
but it would become a mess.
we did try that here in the United States in developing the managing over here and managing up there. We created a time vortex, and NASA contacted us. It was not. This wasn't good.
Yeah, we got shut down, unfortunately. But that being said, that's why it's a one-way sync. It's simply because we want to get or help you at least have one way of centrally managing it without breaking everything everywhere else. Now, that doesn't mean that you're stuck once you do the sync. It doesn't mean that you're stuck to only being able to manage things on the cloud or in your Lansweeper site. You still can create fields locally on premise. So you still can create additional custom fields locally on premise, and you can adjust values on premise as well. So all the syncing will be done from your on premise to your Lansweeper site. Another important thing to know is that once you start syncing, it is irreversible. You cannot undo the mess, basically, that you start by clicking the button of syncing and looking at all that stuff. And you have to be the site owner. Obviously, because it's such a impactful change, we don't want anyone within your organization to be able to enable this. You have to be the site owner in order to enable the syncing. And it is irreversible. I'll talk in a second about how we match things together. But yeah, once you start merging these things, it's impossible to start pulling them, apart from each other again. So that's why it's irreversible as well. And the last thing that I need to mention is that the custom field name and the type of a custom field is only synced once. So this is a very important thing. This is why we spend so much time on this part in the pro tip, is because we want you to be aware that this syncing is irreversible. It only syncs the custom field type and name once. So you have to we urge you to prepare your on-premise environments before you hit that sync button, because it'll be much more work to fix it if you make mistakes there. So that's why we're spending so much time on this specific part. Now, the consolidation itself, how does it work? As you can see on my screen, I'm here on the on-premise version of Lansweeper, where you can see all the custom 1 through 20. Each has a display name. It has a type as well as potential values that custom field might have. Now, as long as the way that we consolidate things is we look at the name, the display name of the custom field, and the type. And as long as that's a match there, we will combine them into one. This means that if you have installation A and B, they both have a custom field that has the same name and the same type. We will throw that together and see that as one custom field. It does not matter whether that's custom field, 01 or 20. Doesn't matter. We just look at the display name and the type. Now, if you have the same name but a different type, those will be separate custom fields. We will not merge it if it has the same name but a different type. So again, that's why you need to make sure that when you go through your local installations and you look at your custom fields, make sure that they are the same name, the same type, and then we'll throw them together. It is case insensitive, the merging, so it does not matter if you have, for example, environment spelled with a capital E and the other one lowercase e. That doesn't matter. We'll take care of that. But obviously, it is sensitive to whatever is in the name. So character sensitive. So if you have I don't know if a space would make a difference, but be careful with it regardless. But definitely if you have a comma or a period somewhere, that will make a difference, obviously, because it's a different name. So those are the main rules, basically, and the caveats and the warnings, basically, all of that stuff rolled into one big explanation from me. Let's take a look at how you actually sync it then. So given that you've checked your local installations and you're comfortable with your custom fields and how they're there, you can go to your Lansweeper site. Then obviously in the configuration, you head to site settings. And if you scroll down here, you'll see that there is a new sync asset fields from on-prem to your site. And one is enabled, one is grayed out. So we are working on things like asset states, types, relation types, and groups, etc. in the future. But for now, it's just custom fields. You enable that, you'll click sync my data, and then it comes up with, again, basically what I've just discovered or mentioned in 5 to 10 minutes before, in a very short format with some links. So again, you can look at that, but this is also just to make sure that whoever does this is aware of what they're doing and they've taken it into account before they start syncing it. Once you've said, yep, I am okay with that, you can enable the custom field sync, and that will start the syncing process and the merging process of all your custom fields. And that's more or less where I'll stop, and I'll hand it over to Jacob to kind of show you what you can do with these custom fields once they're in your site. Like Jacob mentioned, he's had a pro tip about custom fields before. That was more on-prem, but now that you can manage it all in cloud, I'll hand it over to him as well in a second. The one thing that I want to take a look at first is, before I throw it over, that I just thought of, is the actual managing of custom fields. So if you go to your assets page, there is a button here to manage your custom fields. This will give you an overview of all the custom fields that are in your site. In this case, I don't have any link synced yet from my on-premise, but this will give you the overview of your custom fields that you have in your cloud. Obviously, you can adjust these as you want. Again, I know I'm repeating myself, but if there's any on-premise custom fields here, I think it also says here, no, that's something else. If you have any on-premise fields here, if you change the name, if you change the type, whatever you do here, it will not sync back to your on-premise. On the other hand, if I were to type a name here that is, not custom, I hit enter to save that, and I change the thing here, the type maybe, this will immediately start syncing back up to the cloud, and that will create a new custom field in your cloud environment. And one thing that I might have forgotten just to say here, let's see. Yes, there are a few different ways because we don't exactly handle custom fields the exact same in cloud in your site. There are different types, basically. If I go here, I think the types that we allow for custom fields, when you create a new one, the types here, these ones, they're not all the same as the ones on-prem. So there is some something to keep in mind when you do this as well. It won't change the functionality. It's just for you to be aware of. But let's see here. So radio button lists on premise. Going back here, radio button lists. Radio button list combo boxes and yes, no values will, in your Lansweeper site, they will become a drop down with all the values added as a option. So there's just something for you to be aware of. It won't change how you can use those custom fields. It shouldn't really change how you use those fields or how you can use them. It's just for you to be aware that, things like radio buttons or yes, no field, we don't have that in your Lansweeper site. It's just replaced by a drop down with values. That being said, I think I've said more than enough. I think it's time to jump over to you, Jacob, and take a look at what they can do with the custom fields once they've synced them, basically, because I think that's probably the more interesting thing for people to see. So I'll throw it over to you.
All right. Thanks, Esmond. Okay, so here are my my custom fields for this example. Just like Esmond had his screen up, mine, I have my few that I use here, like my environment, application family, etc. So I have them here, and I have gone through the sync. I went through my settings. I made sure everything was in the format that I needed, and hit that sync button. So now, if I go over, and here are the ones in cloud for that asset, which if you scroll down, there they are, all right here. So they're all synced. So the neat thing about Lansweeper sites, or one of the neat things, is reporting is pretty simple. So first thing we're going to do is I'm going to show how to do a report with these custom fields. So I'm going to go to reports. And I will choose just the all servers report here, and I'm going to duplicate it, and I will just name it. Okay, so the neat thing is, for the fields, when you're editing it, you just basically type your variable name, and environment has several,
a lot of entries.
But that's okay. That's okay, because the cool thing is everything says custom fields.
Mm-hmm.
So everything for this report says custom fields. So I know that it's that one, and I'm going to do my application custom field. Say custom fields and application name. Well, let's see, application family. Owner, just monitor by PRTG. This is how easy it is right here. And since this is the duplicated server one, it has some filters in here with the OS code, the domain role, and the ID, mm-hmm. Which basically is filtering just the Windows servers. Or just the server, sorry. And here, the fields we want to choose, we just add them to display down here, application family. So they'll show up right here for the it's made for people like me that have no idea what we're doing. So it's
yeah,
it's great.
For the people that are wondering why you have to select them twice, is because it's basically, for the ones that know, but the reporting is kind of done like a step-by-step approach. In the first step, there's a lot more fields because some of those fields are used in the filter step in the second one, but you might not want to use those fields. The information in those fields might not be useful for you. They're just in there to filter on them. So that's why you have to select them twice.
Right, exactly. So I don't want to know the OS code ID isn't
Yeah.
going to mean anything, so we don't have it down here. So this is what we're going to display, and you can just drag them around to put them in the right order. So you've got the preview window right here, and I want the asset name, and I want the environment and um, application. So you can drag them around. So then, likewise, you could put a filter right here, another filter. Like you said, you can do steps. Um, I probably could do it up there, but I like to just, my brain can only handle one step at a time. So we're going to say where environment doesn't exist. And we're going to say all with custom fields. So we're just going to say all servers. We're going to say with missing environment field. Just horrible name. It's a sorry. But so we're going to save the report and we're just going to leave it into a hardware report. You can label them as appropriate. So right here, I have two servers, which I haven't put any information in for these. So I'm now officially going to write myself up for having these servers and not having that defined. So I use this to help people, like I did in this previous pro tip. I use this to make sure that we have everything properly classified. So now we have that, and that's how easy that is. So
And
any
there's a
questions before
few
I go to a
different.
view, Esmond?
Well, my main question was just was going to lead into views, because I was going to say, like, how else, what other ways are there to use the custom views? I
No,
know,
Esmond.
everybody in
That,
report, well, a lot of people know reports, but not everybody uses them because some, it might be challenging for some. So there are some easier ways to use custom fields as well.
that's a great question, Esmond. You can use custom views,
It's almost like
right?
I
So
knew.
we go, and again, this is something that is so easy that I can almost do it. So to do custom views, you can just go to your inventory, and down here you see custom views, and you can customize your view here. And just like before with the reporting, all the fields that you have now, your custom fields, they say custom. So even if you have, like just like before, if you forget them, need to find them, or have multiple names, so everything in the views now, the options now have the custom. So you just say application, application family, owner, theme. We're going to skip that one because we don't need it. And monitored, anything you want. You just add them and you can move them up and down just like before. And let's do environment. You get the idea. Application. And there they are. So there they are. Uh, environment, application. I've got some other ones that I didn't sort over here.
Yeah, they're at the
Right.
end. And then you can add filters to that filters to that as well, right?
Yes, sir. So we can do environment. Exists. Or, yeah, we'll just do environment exists. So right there, you can filter on any of the fields. There we go. So we can do OS starts with Win2 to get just my servers. And we can add the type right environment not exists. And there are my two servers, which don't have, just like the report. And you go up here, it says unsaved view, and you say save the view, and I say when servers missing environment custom field really long name.
And these two are basically the same now. Like you have a custom view that's basically the same as your report.
Yes.
Obviously, people can use whatever they prefer, whichever method they prefer. But most of the time, the reports, obviously, the reports have more options to them. If you wanted to, or if you're looking for very specific things, you can use it more. But I think we used to have some custom fields we used to already have in views, but we didn't have them yet in reporting. And it's a big thing that customers were asking for reporting, because there's a lot of customers that have complex reports or specialized reports that they want to use custom fields in, not just views. But if you just want to create something simple, I think views are probably a more user friendly way to create this, or an easier way for a lot of people to kind of create the same view basically that we did just back then in the reports.
Yes. So in this example, in this scenario, the custom view would be the easier option because all I want to see are my assets that or servers that are just missing a custom,
Hmm.
don't have the data for a custom field. So I'm not doing any fancy logic or anything. So a view would be uh, quite fine.
Yeah.
So now that we have these, hopefully real quick, we'll just do a dashboard, because not only can you report, but you can add them to some dashboards. And what I like to do is we'll just go down here and create a new board. And we are going to do you got to name it descriptively. So test dashboard. That way we know exactly what it is. You know what? Let's do test dashboard version 2.
V2
Do
final.
not delete.
Okay.
There we go. All right. So now you got a little plus sign over here, and you add your widgets. And I like to use all three of these right here: the numbers, report overview, and tables. And I'll just quickly, because it's pretty easy, go with the numbers widget. So I made some reports already. Basically, what I just did in the example. So all servers with missing environment.
You can actually also use your view in that one, because like 4 rows down is your view that you created. So you can even
Oh,
pick
you
which
know
one
what?
you can
Are you
actually
trying to
do.
embarrass me? Is that what's going
No,
on?
I'm just giving
Okay.
more information so that
All
people
right,
know.
we'll do the view. You're right.
I mean,
Yeah,
you could do
we'll
both,
do
but
that view.
obviously it depends what sometimes.
Yes.
But regardless, you can do both. That's just what I wanted to point out. Whether you use it in a
Yeah.
report or if you've created a custom view, you can use the number there.
So we have the number widget here with the Windows servers missing the environment variable. You can definitely name it something shorter rather than the really long name, so you can resize it and it fits. Um, so that's how easy that is right there. And then we're going to add a report overview, and we're going to make a new one. I made one here. We're going to make a new one, and we're going to call it report overview test version 1 is what we're going to name it. because it's important to match that up with test dashboard version 2, do not delete.
Yeah,
So
needs to
we
keep
have
the
that. We
logic
know
in
that
there.
it goes together. All right. So, and you have, this is like your on-prem email, your alert reporting for your on-prem dashboards. And I use that a lot to make actionable items like we're doing now. So I am going to put down here in the information, all servers. Now these are reports.
Yes.
So if you want to do this, you got to make a report versus a view. But we're going to do all servers with missing environment field. And we're going to apply it. There it is right there. So we've now got a number button, and we've got a report overview entry. And last but not least, we're going to do a table, which we could do a report or a view. We're going to just do the really long name one. There we go. You can make a report that has less fields. Since you're displaying the report on here, you can make a copy of it and just have a few fields. Here's the asset, basically. But here's the whole report.
Or you could
So
also use
here we
a
have.
custom field again, custom view, I should say. Custom view option is also available there
Yes.
if you want to.
So test, do not delete. And one of the neat things here, when you do the dashboard, again, which is different than on-prem, and a neat thing is you can share the view or share this dashboard with everybody, or just some certain people here, which I would click, but it shows all the people and their names and who can have access to my site. So we're going to share it with everybody. And there it is right there. And the dashboards, test dashboard version 2, do not delete. And there are your widgets, and there are your reports with the custom fields. So I just made a few more on the reports for those few other fields, the environment, the monitor and PRTG, and these are just simple. Do they exist? Do they not exist? But you can do more, anything you want on reporting on these custom fields. So right here, this is something that I need to look at, or an engineer. Oops, I have 2 I need to take care of here. Oops, I have 4 that need to be monitored. Oh man, I've got 7 that aren't backed up. And so you have your number widget, or if you want to just have it all in one report overview, or as individual tables.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. And it's pretty easy. And
yep. And I think
great.
one of the next things that I'm not going to make promises, but one of the things at some point where we need to start looking at as well, and something that you can, if you're watching this, you can already start looking at is, right now we've shown an example of things like not monitored by PRTG and then backed up by Veeam. Those are things that you did through like an on-premise integration, right, Jacob?
Yes.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So those are custom fields that are populated via a custom on-premise integration, which is great that now you can manage that you can at least have that data, and you can manage those custom fields as well in your site. The next step would be to see if we, instead of having to go through the kind of indirect route of a custom on-prem integration to then being synced to your site, if you can just replace that by simply updating custom fields directly through the API in your site, and that way you avoid any potential issues with the whole syncing process. It just directly goes to your site. That's something that if you have your custom on-prem integration, something you might want to start looking at and how you can start implementing that. We might in the future also do a pro tip around that and kind of give you an example of how you could do that. But definitely an interesting thing that we might that you and we might be looking at in the future as well.
Yes, because full disclosure, full disclosure, this was something that we needed. That folks like me or system admins that automate the custom fields on prem. We needed this feature right here to start using the reporting and maximizing the value of the cloud. And like you just said, now recently they added the ability to manage these custom fields and values from the API, not just read them or read the data. So now we have both, like you just said, Esmond. So I can sync them, and then now I can start working on, taking my automation, which pulls the information into on-prem and do it with the API. So once I'm done with that, then I don't have to do those weird custom things on-prem anymore. I can just
Mhm.
use the API um,
Yeah, so
in
much
a
much
standard,
elegant.
uniform way.
Yeah, much more elegant way of integrating, basically. All right, great. I think that pretty much covers what we were planning on cover today. So I want to thank everybody for watching. Thank you, Jacob, for hopping in and showing all the things that you can do with custom fields. And
Yes, sir.
we'll hopefully see you all in the next pro tips. Bye bye.